right. So today with us, we have Lucy Bellville, the voice behind Willamette Valley Wine, content creator, wine lover, and proud McMinnville native. She studied speech communication and writing at Oregon State University, then came back home to dive headfirst into the wine world. She now works at Kinwright Cellars as their content creation specialist, capturing the vineyard stories and culture that make Willamette Valley wine so damn special. She splits her time between tasting rooms and soccer fields, coaching youth soccer by day and sniffing out the valley's best wine by night. And she joins us today.
Welcome.
I will say one thing. Lucy Bellville.
Bellville. Okay.
Yes,
What'd you
I
say,
say
Bellevue?
Bellevue.
all the time.
Bellville, like McMinnville.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Belluring and McMinnville.
Okay, got it. Belleville.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, I just gotta
thank
rhyme
you for
stuff.
having me.
You just got to rhyme stuff.
Find the parallels.
So what got you into wine? I mean, obviously, did you go into like your communication studies thinking, hey, I want to get into the wine industry specifically, or did you kind of find yourself into it?
I kind of found myself into it. So with many things, like my parents were wine club members, so I was exposed to it when I was younger. And we would go around the valley. I was their DD once I turned 16.
Ooh.
Nice.
So
They're like new level unlocked.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Well, I'm the youngest of 5 kids too,
Okay.
so it was already well unlocked before me. But I got the chance to hang out with them and drive them around, especially like the Yamhill Carlton area because we lived in McMinnville, and see these beautiful spaces. But there was nothing really for me at that age until you really are able to drink. Like at that point, at least wineries had like nothing for anybody who wasn't 21. So a lot of sitting around. Even then, like social media phones and stuff were not that big, I feel like.
So you just sit there and stare
I
at a
was forced to
vineyard.
communicate with people.
You had to talk to them.
I had to talk to them. So yeah, I got to hang out with them and experience it. And then once I did turn 21, I graduated college a little bit early, so it kind of fell around that turning 21 mark. And I went with my parents to taste wine that summer and got recruited to work at a tasting room.
Wait, you graduated college at 21?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a little kind of race through it, but you know, McMinnville has like the college credit now
Yeah.
program, so came in with a bunch of credits, which at that point I had no idea what college credits were. I was like, my mom says that I need to pay this money. Here we go. And now I'm like, why did I not do more of that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, eventually we went tasting. My parents were club members at a spot where my cousin actually worked, and it all worked out, and we got to all work together. It's kind of like a family thing. My brother worked there, my cousin worked there, my parents were club members, so
It's almost like it's in your blood.
it was really fun for like a summer, and that was at Willamette Estate. So
Where's that at?
It's in Yamhill, outside of Yamhill in the Yamhill Carlton AVA.
Okay.
Jackson Family Wines owns it now.
Explain what a club member is, if people don't
Good
know.
question. Yeah, so basically a lot of wineries will have a tasting fee, right? So you go in, let's say you get to taste 5 wines and it's $35, or some places it's less, some places it's more, it depends. Typically, if you join a club, you're basically saying, okay, I'm agreeing to purchase 6 bottles twice a year, and because I'm agreeing to that, I get these other perks. So sometimes it's like club member parties or dinners or things like free tastings, and you're kind of agreeing like, okay, I'm gonna you kind of pay in advance for the club shipment itself, but yeah, you're basically saying like, I'm gonna agree to this allocation so that you know that when you're making wine, you have somebody to make it for, and people are gonna like continually be customers.
Okay.
Some people have like, you know, a year or 2-year memberships essentially. So if you cancel before then you'll be charged.
Oh, okay.
Do you get to pick your wines, or do they randomly select them for you?
That's a good question too. It depends.
Depends.
Yeah. If there's a winery that it's pre-selected, then
I'm not picky.
yeah. Exactly.
I am.
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and some places pre-select them, and then they're like, if you need to change anything, we'll just swap it out for you and make sure you charge the right amount. So the biggest thing is like making sure the club members charge the right amount, I think. And so as long as like you're getting what you want, that's usually the most important part.
I love it when you go to a wine tasting and all of a sudden you get like 3/4 of the way through and they're like, let us introduce you to our wine club. Here's a little thing you can sign up. And like feel like if it was at the beginning, you'd be like, oh, okay, I'll consider it. But the time they bring it out, it's like, we're going to sign up for everything.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you're a member. You're a member.
They could have signed you up for some stay at some like hotel that's Like what do you call
Like
those
a
things?
timeshare?
Timeshare, yeah.
No kidding.
A wine share.
A wine share.
There you go. There you go.
You guys are giving me ideas.
I know. I think you should have started. Just run with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Our gift to you.
Yeah, there is definitely like this sweet spot of asking people like, oh, you're really enjoying it here? Well, why don't you join the club if you like it so much? So there's that sweet spot in the tasting that
Yeah.
when, you've had a little bit, you're feeling good, you're really liking the wines, and then they're probably going to slip it in, right?
Yeah. They brought out like the cheese board and everything like that. They're like, here's some cheese, here's a sign up.
So if a lot of people, everybody knows what a wine tour is, at least from the outside looking in. But if someone's kind of going into it brand new and like, I want to go experience like a day, right? I go to a couple of vineyards. How would you guide them through something like that?
Yeah, so I would recommend, we just were talking about this earlier, but finding a tour company first is probably going to be, if you're not wanting to drive, right? So definitely drink responsibly. If you're driving, make sure that you're either pouring or spitting, which we can get into that later too, just like the science behind all of it. But yeah, so find a tour company. There's so many in the Valley that would love to host you, whether you're local or coming in from out of town. And then they can guide you and let you know, like, here are the best spots for this. If you're traveling with a bigger group and you want to bring lunch, for example, they can come up with places. So, like, they have the connections around to be able to really cater to what you want specifically. If you are wanting to fend for yourself and go out on your own, I would definitely recommend looking at a map, first of all, and looking what's near each other.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be planning a tasting and you're going down to Salem and then you're going up to Yamhill and then you're going over to Portland, like,
That's
probably
not a good
not
plan.
fun at
Yeah.
all. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna
It's a
spend-
lot of driving.
You're probably not even going to make it to all the places.
Because there's a lot of, each vineyard has their own like grape varieties that they use, right? And so it's not like you're going and getting the same thing at different ones.
No, you can go to 3 in the same zip code and get a completely different tasting. Whether it's like, for example, talking about like Dayton area. Dayton is a larger zip code, but you have everything from like the super small boutique wineries like Siltstone. They have a very low price point. It's super approachable, more of an outdoor patio tasting. And you have that all the way up to Domaine Serene, which is a completely different experience, very elevated, very elegant. If you're not dressed up, you definitely feel out of place. More of a higher price point.
Yeah.
So yeah, the range between even a single zip code would be a completely different, depending on what you're looking for.
Interesting. So you can have like, this is like a laid back experience. I could go to these 3 wineries and know that I can wear flip flops and jeans.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can, if you want something a little bit more elevated, you can kind of choose. This one's actually going to have a dinner or something involved with it, live music, that type of thing.
Absolutely. And I would say overall, like blanket statemented, Oregon wine industry is pretty chill. Like you can show up in a t-shirt and jeans and taste anywhere, or even show up in like, I'll go tasting in like an athletic skirt and like a jacket and be totally fine anywhere I go. But yeah, if you're wanting to get dressed up, then there are certain places that you probably like wouldn't want to go unless you're wanting to feel like super, super dressed up compared to everybody else there.
Okay.
So.
Cool. So where are your favorites right now that you kind of default to?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Besides your own work,
Yeah, my family and I joke about like gatekeeping certain places because we're like, well, we don't want like everybody to show up here
and then like it like ruins it. Yeah.
And then it's so busy. But one of those places that we absolutely love and always go to is DuPont, which is in the Dundee Hills. So it's right outside of Dayton. Do you guys know where like Archery Summit is?
No.
Vaguely. I'm over there quite a bit just for my day job shooting vineyards, but I don't really know exactly which one's which.
Yeah, it kind of sits like right up the road from Archery Summit. So they have everything from sparkling to a really beautiful like white selection as well as Pinot Noir.
I feel like here in the Valley, Willamette Valley Vineyards was the one that you saw all the time, and that was like the one that you just defaulted to. And then over the last probably like 10 years, I feel like every time we're driving, I'm seeing a new vineyard someplace. And you don't realize how many are popping up everywhere. Or you see the label in the grocery store or wherever you're going to buy your wine, and you think it's like from someplace else. And all of a sudden you drive by and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know that was here. So it's kind of neat to see how they're just like growing all over the place.
Well, and the expansion too. Like I think there's something like over 700 or 800 just in the Willamette Valley, and then if you look out to Oregon, over 1,000 different wineries. So there's a lot of production going on, and you're not seeing all of it, especially during the fall. Like, unless you're located in Carlton or in one of like the smaller winemaking communities, it's pretty much like segmented to like, for example, in McMinnville, like there are a lot of wineries in the industrial area. So if you drive by that, you're probably seeing a lot of grapes coming in. Or like if you're out on the road on 99, for example, like during September, October, you'll probably see the trucks. You just don't know that they're carrying a bunch of grapes.
Oh, okay.
And you get more involved than I think a normal person would, as far as experiencing the vineyard. And what is your favorite aspect of going in there?
That's a good question. For me, I was really on like the tasting room side for a long time, and then once I started working, or right before I started working at Ken Wright Cellars, I was able to get some more exposure in the vineyard, and that really drew me out to like loving being a part of like the outdoor adventure of wine and wine tasting and wine touring. And so I would say that, I don't know, just being able to be outside, and in some wine tours you're able to do a vineyard tour on top of it and have a little glass of wine in the vineyard, and it just kind of like brings everything together in a really amazing space.
So, and I don't know if this is right or not, but I heard somebody say that the Willamette Valley is starting to rival like Napa Valley a little bit as far as Oregon versus that area.
Yeah, I would say that in some senses that's totally true.
Yeah.
Rival, I don't know. Like some people are saying like the Willamette Valley's the new Napa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot. I think it's because Napa was really known as that West Coast wine destination.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people who have gone to Napa in the last 20 years, they're kind of deferring to go to the Willamette Valley now because it's a little bit more calm, a little bit more approachable, a lot cheaper, and you're getting that same, if not better, quality of specific wines, especially if they're Pinot and Chardonnay drinkers. You're getting top quality in the Willamette Valley.
Oh, okay.
But there's also like a difference in climate too from there too. So what is the wine varieties compared to Napa Valley to here in Oregon?
That's a good question. I don't know Napa like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
I know that they do produce some Pinot Noir, but it ends up being like that warmer climated Pinot Noir. So it can taste, at least the Napa Pinots that I've had, can taste a little bit more like thin, almost like a little bit more,
Like
or
a
less
table wine
robust.
type taste to it?
Yeah, kind of. Whereas in the Willamette Valley, like we get the warmer days and the cooler nights. So the Pinot Noir specifically has a lot more time to ripen as well as come into its structure and really develop those like extreme flavor profiles, if you will.
So how does that happen? Is it just like the sugars coming in, or is it like it's something in the soil that it's like absorbing?
That's a part of, all of it plays into it, right? So everything from like we're keeping track during harvest of like the pH of the soil and the bricks, which are the sugar levels, and then also going out and like tasting the fruit on vine just to make sure like, it is where it should be. But a lot of what plays into it in the Willamette Valley is the soil structure and the material, like the geological material underneath. So that's a whole nother concept to talk about, I guess. But yeah, geology, geography, and ultimately like the people really make the Willamette Valley what it is.
Interesting. So how many, I mean, I've heard that there's a lot of wineries. There have been some that have scaled back. They've actually taken out some of their crops. So, I mean, do you see that trending as far as they need to scale back because they have overproduced?
Well, it's kind of tough because right now a lot of people are scaling back because the consumption is going down from all of the reports, at least. So there was just a report that I read this morning that it's like at its lowest in since 2006 or something.
Is that because of the whole like non-alc movement that we're seeing? Okay.
I think that's a part of it. Yeah. I think there's a lot that plays into it as well. Like a lot of the buyers and like the people who were really into wine and really adopted it as a lifelong hobby, they're getting older, and a lot of that demographic isn't able to drink anymore, or they're not wanting to drink anymore because of health reasons. So there's all of that. And then the younger generation is, we're only in our mid-20s. When you're drinking $85 bottles of wine when you're in your mid-20s.
We talked about that. Like, that's why they started introducing the canned wine, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Underwood's done a great job of producing this Oregon canned wine that's it's delicious, and it's also cheap, and it's also approachable because it's in a can and everybody can have their own individual serving without having to all agree on one bottle to purchase at a restaurant or to purchase from the store or things like that. So I think that's a part of like the whole, I don't know, thought process. But
Okay.
yeah, definitely you're seeing, and there's also like, you know, yield of crops changes year to year as well. And 23 was a fairly large yield, so there was this like overproduction, which it looked like at least, but it was just like a really healthy crop. And then, you know, there's all this wine then you have to sell because you had such a large crop.
Do you remember like when we first started getting into wine drinking in probably like our mid 20s, and the first time I saw like an individual thing of wine, we were going someplace, I can't remember where it was, and you came back and is it Copia wine or
Oh, yeah,
it was
Coppola.
Coppola, yeah.
Francis
And-
Ford Coppola.
No, was it that?
Yeah.
It was the little tiny ones that like you peeled the top off of it.
He may have had something like that. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It looked like a little like
Fun size.
yeah, it was. And I remember we're sitting there, and I was really into what was it that I was really Riesling
Yeah.
at the time, and all of a sudden Brian's like, I was like, oh, we didn't wind up like
It
bringing
was
anything.
Riesling, then it was Gewürztraminer, and then it was like
What else was rosé?
rosé.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm the foo-foo wine drinker. He's the one that'll like drink anything.
She started getting as she was transitioning out of that, she started getting some more of the drier, a little bit drier stuff. So I think
like sweeter reds.
well, yeah, like but there is some like white wines that aren't quite as sweet. Maybe they don't.
Yeah. Like
they
they have some
evap-
sweetness to them, but
Yeah.
they don't like hit you in the face.
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
Yeah.
I can't handle like the ones that feels like you drink it and it's like evaporating in your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
But,
so
yeah,
dry.
The high alcohol, really low sugar tends to have that effect sometimes.
So apparently I just like a lot of sugar, and I just like have it be
That could be
super
it.
sweet.
Well, sometimes, like for me, the acidity can kind of play into that part of your taste buds, I guess. So it'll hit you kind of back here.
Yeah.
But even if it's not super sweet and super high in sugar, it can still kind of like scratch that itch.
Yeah.
So do you get into the? I mean, you've gotten into experimenting with like the taste of wine.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you kind of developed, or is that something you people either have it or they don't have it?
Oh no, it's all about exposure. We talked a little bit about it earlier,
Yeah.
but the more you're around wine and the more you're tasting it and the more you're up for experimentation, especially if you're out in tasting rooms and things like that, the more you'll get used to it and the more you'll start to like it. I guess when I started, I was 21 and I was like, this is all disgusting. Like, I'm good. Like, okay, you told me to say this stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and say what you told me and kind of regurgitate all that information.
You have like a
Yeah.
little
And
cheat
then
sheet
they're
there.
like, They're like, what's your favorite? I'm like, and then just make something up. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, like, is that really my favorite? No. But then it's like, you grow into really liking specific wines, especially if you're tasting Pinot Noir a lot, then you end up developing this palate for Pinot Noir. And once you have that, like, you can approach basically any Pinot Noir in the Willamette Valley and have a different opinion on what you're tasting.
Okay.
So it's really a matter of exposure and learning about what you're tasting and developing those taste buds. I don't think if you're born with it, good for you.
Good for you.
But I was not somebody who was born with it.
I know there's some people that have like very, I mean, they can taste things really intensely
Yes.
with their taste buds, and they're able to kind of swish it around. Like I'm getting notes of this and that, and it's like, are you?
Yeah, well, that's something that's learned too. Like they have these flavor wheels. I should have brought one today. I can pull it up on my phone though, and it shows you like all the different like flavors, all the like primary flavors, all the secondary flavors, all the tertiary, and then like it's, I don't know, so robust of this wheel that you can kind of like, okay, is it vanilla? Am I smelling cinnamon? Am I smelling leather? Anything like that. So it kind of gives you this idea, and then you're able to like smell the Pinot, taste it, and then you're kind of able to draw back like, oh, actually, yeah, that is what I'm tasting.
Interesting. That's just from the soil and the acidity level and everything just kind of working together just to make something a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, the growing season has a lot to do with it as well. So like the weather can impact the flavors in the wine and whatnot.
So you can get like a bottle of Pinot that was like from 2014, and that will have a different flavor profile than something you just had now that just came out.
So if you taste, for example, a 2011 next to a 2015, it'll be you can have the same fruit from the same vines and complete in the same winemaking process all the way through.
Oh, okay.
And they can taste like completely different wines because 2011 was a very cool vintage and 2015 was a hot vintage.
So when they say this was a good year, that you actually say, yeah, that was a good year.
It was a good year.
Absolutely.
So how do you get someone who's like in your age group who wants to get into wine, or they're not quite sure? How do you get them into like tasting? Because I think that's the key thing is if there are people out there that want to experience this, how do you bring them into it that's approachable, and you can kind of gradually introduce them to things starting out. This is something that's within your price range that tastes good, and you don't need to spend $300 on a bottle of wine.
It's hard to do, especially if you're wanting to get out to the wineries and taste, but something that I like to do with my friends that's a very low cost but high return is, let's say you invite 10 people over, 5 people, 10 people, whatever. Everybody brings a bottle of wine. You can bring something from the grocery store or have a theme. Like if you wanted to do like everybody brings a different Sauvignon Blanc, or everybody brings a different Oregon wine, and one person's bringing Sauv Blanc, one person's bringing Chardonnay, one person's bringing Pinot Gris, and then, you know, you have your Pinot Noir, you have your other reds from the Willamette Valley. You can kind of designate it that way, so then everybody has about, you know, between a, let's say, $12 and $35 buy-in, but you're getting to taste these 5 to 10 wines.
Why did we never do that? That's really smart.
Yeah, that's smart.
I like that.
We could just do it, just us. We get 10.
It could be like
10 bottles
you
of
bring
wine.
10 bottles.
Send me an invite, I'm in. I might bring 2.
So speaking of wine, you brought some wine here. Tell us about these choices that you brought.
Yeah, so I brought several. I love getting to meet and support the like boutique or small producers in Oregon. There are so many of them, and I think that oftentimes we'll go to Fred Meyer and look at the aisles and be like, okay, like that name kind of sounds familiar, or this name kind of sounds familiar, but sometimes they're the higher production wineries. Sometimes they do have the smaller ones as well, but a lot of times you're seeing those people who have enough wine to have a distribution label as well as their in-house label or their D2C label. So yeah, I have some whites, and then I have, you know, the classic Pinot Noir. But one of my favorites right now, and has been for a while, is Sauvignon Blanc from the Willamette Valley.
Hold it up.
Yeah, so this one is Siltstone Sauvignon Blanc. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I love Siltstone. I worked there for many years, and I'm close with the family, and so it's really nice to be able to support somebody that I feel so close to, but also like I said earlier, I think their tasting cost is like $15, and you taste 5 to 6 wines.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, super good. They're located right off Highway 18, so if you're from Portland and you're driving to Lincoln City or going to the coast for the weekend, super easy stop on the way there or the way back.
Okay.
And yeah, you can get I think every one of their bottles is under $30. So, or almost every single one of their bottles is under $30.
And it's family owned?
Family owned,
Okay.
operated. Yeah.
That's
so,
cool.
This is a really fun one. They have Durant's actually done a Sauvignon Blanc. I think it's called Sauvage the last few years, and
We
Did
got a
you
lighting
guys see
issue.
that too?
yeah, I was like, was that supposed to happen?
Smile.
But yeah, they have invited a bunch of the Sauvignon Blanc producers out to Durant to host this festival, and that's really fun because you're tasting, again, the same varietal over and over again, but they all taste so different. So, because everybody does a little something different with their Sauv Blanc. The Siltstone is more like Sancerre style, so a little bit more fruit forward than like the New Zealand grassy
Okay.
Sauv Blanc. Another wine that I brought was this Approachment wine. So Jess and Peyton West. Jess works for Harper Voigt as a winemaker. Peyton does work with like Benza, and he's worked with Carta. So they're a couple. They're married. They have their own label, and it's called Approachment. And their goal was to make this approachable wine, especially for younger people who, you know, want to get into wine. And so they have these really amazing labels of this artwork, and
That's beautiful.
all of them are a little different. So they kind of like give you an idea of what you're going to be tasting or the vibe you'll want. So I think it's their Grenache is just like this girl with like her hair in a bun, and Jess is like, that's me.
What's a Grenache? I haven't heard that one before.
It's another varietal. So
Okay.
I think in Washington they do like a Grenache Fest, so a little bit more common up there. But this one is it's a rosé colored point of contact Pinot Gris. So a lot of people will call it like an orange wine or a rosé, depending on how much skin contact there is. But yeah, their goal is to make something affordable and approachable, and just, you know, that porch pounder vibe.
The porch pounder.
You can open a bottle.
I've never heard that term
It's
before.
gone before you know it.
Wow. Is there a bottle named Porch Pounder? I bet it would sell out.
Not that I've heard of.
I mean, there's a
but
business
not
plan for
tomorrow.
someone. There you go.
Absolutely. Could be soon.
Just-
And then the third bottle I have over here is Satire Fire. And Paul Johnson makes these. He does all the label artwork too. They're all very fun and like white varietals that you don't typically see. This one is a Riesling, but he does all kinds of different whites, and it's fun just to look at his profile of wines because it's him. Like, he's producing all the wine. He does it out in Salem.
Yeah.
And just for one person to have so many different varietals under their belt and not really see them anywhere else, I love to see that. So yeah,
Very cool.
it's a fun one. And then Pinot Noir, I brought a bottle from Ken Wright Cellars. Ken Wright works with, I think, roughly 12 different single vineyards each year.
Wow.
This one's from Hershey Vineyard, so out in the Yamhill Carlton
That's
AVA.
pretty. I like the
Yeah,
label.
The label artwork is gorgeous. David Berkman does all the label artwork for.
I like the very vintage labels that they come out with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, this one's a fun one. Pinot Noir, classic Pinot from Willamette Valley.
Very cool. So when you got into wine drinking, which one did you kind of gravitate towards first?
That's a good question. I feel like Pinot Noir was just like all around me.
Mhm.
So when I was like trying a little bit of this or trying a little bit of that, it was usually Pinot Noir or like Pinot Gris. If I was going to have like a shift glass after work where I was working, like I'd probably have a little Pinot Gris just because it's super easy to drink. Very approachable for a young, uneducated palate.
Uneducated palate. I remember when I first started, this is going to make all wine drinkers cringe. When I was trying to I like the idea of drinking wine, but I didn't really like the taste of it at first. Mm-hmm. So do you remember we would go out with some friends of ours and I would order a glass of wine, but then be like, can I get a little bit of Sprite on the side to pour in there? And they'd be like, what? And I'm like, I just want some like bubbles in it a little bit. Like, I can't drink the flatness. They'd be like, okay, here's your wine and your Sprite. I'm like,
Actually pretty iconic. I did.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes. See,
when I was working at Siltstone, I'd get, I don't know, several bottles of rosé, and then as like a afternoon, summer afternoon, hanging out on the porch, my mom and I are just hanging out talking. We would just mix the rosé with a little bit of like sparkling water.
yeah.
And
I just
heard
wanted
that
the
from one of my
bubbles.
family members. I was like, this is such a good idea because you're not like feeling it after one glass. You can have several glasses, hang out, be talking for all evening. And it's a great way to also acclimate your palate to wine if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
Just start adding a little less and less until I was like a real grown up that could have a glass of wine.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing is like there's so many workarounds as well. Like for spirits example, like you're not going to drink a spirit straight when you first start getting used to it. You're probably going to have something that's like half a shot of this and Sprite or whatever.
Well, they add water to it to kind of open up the flavor of it too. So when you're drinking like whiskey, some people drink it with a little bit of water, tap
or
water.
Ice cube.
Yeah.
Things
So
like
does it happen too with wine, or is it kind of just dilute it?
I think, in my opinion, it's just a little bit diluted.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Other people can share if they have other opinions. I also don't do it super often anymore, just because, especially with wine tastings and stuff like that, you're not typically asking for ice cube in your wine.
We did a wine tasting for my cousin's bachelorette party, and all of a sudden we realized all of us are there and we're going to be doing the wine tasting, and we're like, oh, we drove. And like, there's nobody that's going to drive us back. So I was like, I'll be the driver. So my sister-in-law was there, and as they would pour it for us, I'd turn around and I'd dump it in her glass really quick. And she's like, what's happening? I'm like, just drink. I'll drive your car back. And she was like, okay. And so
that is hard to navigate though. Like if you're with a group of people and who's going to be the driver, who wants to sit out for the wine
we didn't
tasting.
even think of it, because I'm thinking like you go and it's going to be like this slow. It was my first time doing wine tasting. And so while we're there, I'm thinking it's going to be this long drawn out process. And it's you're going from like, here's this wine. And then a few minutes later, here's this one. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh.
Yeah, in total, like typically it's only about one glass of wine that you're having per tasting. But
I think we had more of a pour.
So
well, and that's the thing too, is like if you have a associate that's pouring heavy, or
and it was like 100 degrees out, and so we were all just like, oh.
Drink enough water during the day. But that's something that, like, if you are planning to drive, like, you can taste it, and then it's not weird to spit out wine, like if you do taste it, or if you have a little sip and then pour out the rest. Like, that's very normal, and I think that a lot of people are like, I don't want to be rude, like pouring out the wine or spitting it, but it's like, no, like that's totally normal and a part of the culture.
Yeah.
So never feel weird for doing that at a wine tasting.
So how do you when you take in a new wine, or do you like smell it, or you're obviously looking at the color, the
tannins,
the legs on it, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, that has a lot to do with like viscosity of the wine. So I mean, unless you're really interested in that, the legs don't have a lot of information, in my opinion.
Yeah, they always say that, like, you
like
swirl
it around.
Like if it takes longer, like, oh, it's got a lot of alcohol in it.
Yes, yeah. So alcohol and viscosity kind of work together in that sense. But yeah, typically like swirl it, have a little sniff. Sometimes things can hit a lot different on the nose than they do on the palate, which is really like fun to learn about.
Which I think a lot of people don't sniff their wine normally. If they drink it and then they taste it, but the sniffing it part is where you're getting a lot of those tastes that are going to come out into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of information that you can gain just from sniffing it, which is great. A lot of times, like if we do team tastings and stuff like that, if somebody's not drinking or not tasting for the day, they'll just be able to sniff it and get a lot of information from that, from the nose.
From the nose.
Yes, and yeah, and then a lot of people do sniff it and then taste it. If you don't, it's your tasting. I say, if it works for you, that's great. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, great. Like, there's not this one size fits all for wine. And I think that a lot of people assume that because they don't like something, like they won't like the tasting experience as a whole. And I don't think that that's true at all. I think that a lot of places, like you were saying, like can have a lot of different options for wines and also be able to cater to a lot of different people at once.
So have you had an opportunity to have a wine that's older than you yet? I mean, how old of a wine have you had yet?
I think the oldest one might have been the year that I was born, or maybe 3 years afterward. I had it was at Archery Summit. They pulled something from their library. And it was either a 96 or 99. And not to age me, but yeah, and it's crazy because like as the wine ages and bottle, it just continues to develop a whole different profile over the years. So if you tasted a wine right when it was released versus 20 years later, it's going to be completely different.
I watched a video about this waiter they ordered this really ancient bottle of wine, and so he had to sit there and very carefully take the cork out because the cork is falling apart. And then they've got to pour it into like a almost like a sieve to like get some of the all the sediment that's been building up, and then the cork, and then pour it back in the bottle, and then
it's like this whole process.
The whole process, yeah. And they had to like make sure that it was still good to drink, and then before they serve it to someone. So
yeah,
interesting to watch that.
Especially with natural cork too, it can disintegrate or break, or if there's any air in it that's not supposed to be there, it can ruin the wine. So it is really important to be able to taste a little bit.
And how the wine was stored too. If you have to store it so that it keeps the cork wet so it doesn't dry out.
I didn't know that.
So usually when you store it on the side, or they have them stored almost like vertical, or
upside down.
Upside down.
Yeah, if it's in storage, it can be placed upside down, or like you said, we were saying, like that on its side.
Yeah. Didn't know that.
Yeah. So any other suggestions or places? I mean, spring is almost here. Well, technically it is spring right now, right?
Yeah.
So everything's kind of blooming right now, right?
It is. Yeah, everything's blooming in the vineyard. I mean, just a month ago probably we weren't seeing any bud break yet, but once the soil temperatures hit mid-50s, then you're seeing this bud break start to happen, especially starts with like the younger vines, and then you'll see it all over the vineyard. So if you are driving by any vineyards and see the little green buds poking out at this time, it's a fun time to be able to live here and live within so many different vineyards. Other favorites though that I have, I would say, I don't know, go-tos. I do like going up to like Willakenzie. That one's a fun one. They just redid their tasting room. I always call it like, I'm like, that's my home. That's the first winery I ever worked at. There are some really beautiful ones up on like Warden Hill as well. So, and I also just went to Chehalem Wines new.
Okay.
Yeah, Stoller Chehalem Wines. They opened right off of Bell Road, and their tasting room's gorgeous.
What's that one that's opening? Or I'm not sure when they're opening, but it's over in Turner. It has these giant crystal chandeliers at the entrance. What is? I can't remember what road that is.
I can't remember what road it was.
It's a new vineyard that was put in, and the entrance of it's just like over the top, giant crystal chandeliers hanging there. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was somebody's personal house, and then I remember you were telling me it's like a vineyard that they're doing out there. I can't remember.
I'll have to find it.
Yeah.
I need to get down here and taste a little bit more. I've been to like the main ones, like Willamette Valley and Ankeny, and Illahey's amazing too. Have you guys been out there?
Illahey? Yeah.
Not to the winery? Is there a winery there? I didn't know that.
Yeah. They have a winery, and then they just built their tasting room. I think they opened like a year and a half ago, maybe.
We need
Is
to
it
get out
located
more.
inside Illahey, the proper, or is it like outside? As you're heading towards like, heading over to like Monmouth area.
It's like it's kind of by Dallas.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Area-ish, but yeah, it's called Illahey Wines or Illahey Vineyard.
I was thinking like actual like Illahey
Illahey,
in there,
like-
and I
'cause
was
we
like,
have-
when did they put a winery in?
Yeah, it's like a golfing community over on the edge of Salem.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, it
So
makes sense, I
that
guess.
explains like the blank looks from us. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Yeah.
Like we've been
not
there.
the
I
country
don't remember
club.
seeing a winery. Okay, that makes more sense then.
Okay, yeah, because they over by Dallas. Is it like on the off the highway where they have what's that? Is it Eola, or what's that one that's right off?
It's that direction.
Okay, because we went to a wedding over there at that one.
Was it Eola?
Eola
We went over
Hills.
there.
It's right across from the fairgrounds.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Is that the one where the butterflies all fell out?
Oh yeah, it was a sad
Oh.
wedding because they were going to release these butterflies and it was really hot out, and so they just flopped them out.
They opened the door and all these butterflies just went blah. They just fell out. We were like,
You're like, this isn't a sign. You guys are
no. They're still married.
Yeah.
They're still married
Yeah.
and doing great. Yeah. It was not a sign at all. It was just a very hot day.
Yeah.
So it's like, have you seen?
Great idea in theory.
There's this video of these people. I think they're at a funeral and they're releasing doves, and they're going to like throw these doves up, and the gal throws the first one and it goes dunk, just down on the ground, and they're like, oh no, and the next one does it and the thing just flops down, and like one of them flies off and they're like, oh yay, and they throw the next one and again it just goes down. It's like, well,
We got married at Vineyard too. We got married at Silver Falls Vineyard,
yeah.
Okay.
which I don't know if is technically a vineyard anymore. Years after we got married there, I went and had to shoot the whole thing because they were selling it, and I don't know if they continued it on.
I think so. They still have the signs for the tasting
Oh,
room
okay,
and
yeah.
everything like that. I know they had a fire. The gazebo we got married
Yeah.
under. Yeah, I know that caught on fire.
Well, that's not good.
It was a few years ago. It's fine. But then I think that was before they changed ownership.
You could probably have your own book where you could say, "Here's the best places to get married. Here's the best
I've
places to
thought
have
about,
food."
Like, that's kind of like what my Instagram though is like, you get these little snips of like, and I could turn them into highlights if I want. I could write a book if I wanted, and like, I think, there's so much to do in so
Or an
little
app.
time.
Make an app. It's like, I want to get married, so here's the best vineyards to get
Send
married
me an
at.
app developer.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And we'll get
I like
started.
it.
Yeah.
Coming up with a lot of great ideas here.
Yeah. There are some beautiful places out in like the Silverton area though.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's got some nice rolling hills out there too.
I showed a property one time, and it was a gal who was in charge of sourcing properties for a vineyard. And it was interesting because we show up and it's this big piece of property. She's not looking at anything on the property itself except for going and like checking the soil and like taking some samples. And the owner was there trying to be like, oh, look over here. She's like, yeah, that's great. And she was looking at like the slope of the land
Yes,
and
the
all this.
aspect, the
Yes, like all that
elevation, yeah.
stuff. And I remember standing there going, I have no idea what she's looking at, but she just like was so dialed in. She came in and they wanted to take us like on this like big drive around the property and everything. And she was like, no, I need to go here, 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 here. And then as soon as we were done, she's like, okay, thanks. I'll be in touch. And she just took all of her stuff back.
She takes a few rocks back.
Yeah, exactly. And then she called and she was like, "Hey, sorry, it looks great, but like we've actually like tested the soil.
Yeah.
it won't grow well there and everything." I was
There's
like,
so much
okay.
science involved.
I
with it.
know. I didn't realize that. I think that was my first glimpse into like, okay, there's so much more. It's not just like, oh, we have a big piece of property. We're gonna start growing some vines here, or grapes
Yeah,
or
I
whatever.
think that that's like a part that there's a disconnect a little bit between going to tasting rooms and experiencing this like more elegant experience, and also it's an agricultural
Yeah.
like whole agricultural industry that we're pulling all of this from. So
Yeah.
something that I've started doing with the help of Ken Wright Cellars and their vineyard team, as well as Results Partners, which is a very awesome vineyard management company in the area. I started inviting tasting room associates, so those who kind of like only see the front end and the customer facing end, to the vineyards. So they got to come out and they got to learn how to prune a vine
Okay.
and like address it, and actually like hands-on experience of pruning vines. And then this last week we did bud break, so they got to come out and learn from the vineyard managers about bud break and all the different things that are happening right now in the vineyard. And then we'll do 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 more sessions throughout the year as growing season progresses. So you're really following the vines this vintage from pruning when they're dormant all the way through harvest when it's time to pull the fruit off the vines. And it's giving them an experience out in the vineyard to learn really about what's going on in real time and be able to, educate their consumers on what's happening in the vineyard instead of just talking about the finished wine itself.
I think that's a good way to approach it too.
Do you like doing the grape stomp stuff?
So I've only been to like one
Really?
activity, and it was at Willamette Valley Vineyards where they have like the grape stomp competition. But other than that, like, not really something that you
That
see very
doesn't
often.
interest me to like press my feet in. I don't know why. That
The
just
vineyard
grosses me
experience is
out.
not.
It's not how they do it, right? It's more of like a
Yeah,
side
there's
thing.
like this, at least at the larger areas, or even some of the smaller ones have a smaller press, but a lot of people now, if they're producing a larger amount of wine, have this huge like bladder press, it's called. So
Yeah.
a lot of people will have the brand like Europress, and yeah, they load all their fruit into it, and then it just basically like presses all the fruit juice out, and then you have to like dig out all the seeds. And
Yeah,
all
I'd
those
rather
skins.
that than like, can I see
Feet?
your feet? By the way, I'm
It
drinking
will
this
take
wine. I want to see your feet.
forever, too. Yeah.
I have never understood that.
Alcohol
Like, I
kills
don't know.
everything,
Yeah.
once
I
it
mean,
does
yeah.
ferment, but
In the old days, you worked with it. You had.
exactly.
It just, I don't know why. I've never been able to wrap my brain around that. Like, I don't want feet wine.
Have you guys been to an event where they do that?
No.
No.
Oh my
No.
gosh! Just for the experience, you should go to the Willamette Valleys in the fall and
Okay.
see. People take it so seriously.
Do
Really?
they?
There are these like returning champions, and they like have everybody set up in this like half barrel essentially with like this tube coming out of it, and then these like gallon jugs. And it's teams of 2. One person is in charge of stomping the grapes, and then the other person is using their hands to get like as much of the juice into the container.
That sounds so messy.
It is so messy. People take it so seriously, and then
It's
like
the dark red, right? That's what they're probably like the Pinot Noir type
yes,
wine. Okay.
yeah. I think they're doing all. When I was there, it was mostly Pinot Noir. I think that they were crushing, but yeah, if you press it and you don't have any skin contact on it, like it's just white grape juice. So
It's got to stain your feet for like days.
That's
probably.
what I was thinking. Just like, I don't know.
well, so the like Pinot Noir and like all the red wine gets their color from the skin contact.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
So unless it's like on the skins for a while, like you wouldn't have any color to it really.
We know nothing
I guess
about
so.
it.
The more you know, the more you don't know.
The
Honestly,
more you
there's
know, the
so
more you
much to learn about wine.
I see. Well, thanks for coming out and explaining a little bit about wine and Oregon wine and how do you get into all these tasting rooms, and it's going to be interesting. I think we should go on a wine tasting.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll rent one of those helicopters that take
She
you
should be
around.
our guide.
Honestly, that would
And
be
she should
so
take us around.
fun.
That would be the quickest way to get from vineyard to vineyard, is because they have one of those helicopters that'll take you to landing spots at certain ones.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So, how do we support you?
Follow me on Instagram. My handle is Willamette Valley Wine. Not associated with Willamette Valley Vineyards, which a lot of people think, but yeah, just Willamette Valley Wine. And then yeah, that's probably the best way to support me. If you guys need anything, send me a DM. If you have any questions or need recommendations, I'm always happy to help. And yeah, just trying to grow the community there and make the whole aspect of wine tasting a little bit more approachable to everybody.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming in, Lucy.
Thank you, guys.
All right.